So you want to learn how to use tabs inside of Microsoft Word. And this is not a question, this is actually a statement. This is something that you absolutely want to learn, and I'm going to show you why. So here's an example of something that happens all the time. I go to some diner or I'll go to some little mom and pop restaurant and I open up the menu and it looks like this. And the font that they're using looks like the 80s called and they want their font back, right? And it's because they are forced to use what's called a fixed space font. And that's usually Courier, Courier New, or there are a few others like Consulus. But what ends up happening is they're like, it does look old. It doesn't look really cool. So what I'll do is I'll highlight everything and I will change it to something else. And usually it ends up being Arial, which is equally lame, but they get this. And now all of a sudden they're sitting there and they're looking at they're using their space bar and they're trying to get everything to line up. And the problem is that it gets close, but no cigar. What ends up happening is anybody who's got OCD or has minor OCD like myself, I look at this and I start to freak out because it just doesn't line up. My eye can't follow this and it looks horrible. Okay. And the reason for this is because now when you go to Arial or use some of the newer fonts, those are proportional space fonts, which means that the lowercase I takes up far less space than a capital H or a W or an M, right? And so things just don't line up and they can't get it to line up. And so what ends up happening is you end up having to use tabs. Now, the nice thing is that Word out of the box already has tabs set up. They have them set up for every ½ inch. So at the ½ inch mark, 1, 1.5, 2, and so forth, all the way throughout your entire document. And so if I turn on my non-printing symbols, if I turn on my paragraph marks, I can see these spaces and I can change that so that I don't want spaces. Instead, I want to use a tab. And so I put a tab in there and now I can see that little arrow, and I'll just do this for a couple of them. I don't want to force you to watch all of these. And then what ends up happening is when they do this, now they don't line up at all. And that's probably because these words are different sizes. Now what they can do, what they end up doing is you hit tab a couple more times. And what ends up happening is things can line up. So notice how they line up very, very nicely. But this is not really how you want to do it, because especially with a menu, you want those leading symbols, right? And so now what they end up doing is they go to paragraph and they'll go in here and they'll go to tabs. And this dialog box is an absolute nightmare. I mean, I don't even use this thing because it's horrible, right? So what I'll do is I'll cancel that out. What I will do instead is I will use my ruler up along the top. So again, I can see where everything is, but over here on the left-hand side, there is a little symbol, and that's the left tab. And if I click this, it changes to a center tab. If I click it again, it turns into a right tab. And if I click it one more time, it looks like a center tab, but it has a little dot. That means that it is a decimal tab, which means that I can line up on the decimal place right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this again. It has a few other settings here. So I want what they'll tend to do is they'll choose a right tab. And what you can do now is when you have that selected, I can come out here and I can say, I want to put it right here at the 4-inch mark. Boom. And when I do that, now it moves all kinds of stuff because they use more than one tab, right? And so what I can do is I can just bring this back. And now what I want to do is I want that same tab for all of those. So what I can do is I can just select this, go to my format painter, highlight all of these, and it starts moving stuff all over the place. And now I can just go through here and I can start changing these. Boom, boom, boom. And I can go ahead and take these and I can change that to a tab. And now everything is lining up. Now the thing is that since I chose a right tab, what it means it's doing is it's taking the rightmost text, so these zeros over here, and it says I'm going to line them up right on this line right here, this invisible line. And if I want to adjust it, what's really nice is I can select this and I can move this, and notice that it's changing just that one. But if I highlight all of these, I can now, it still has this, and I can move this and they'll all move together. Now, the other thing I can do is, like I said, with a menu, you want those dot leaders. So what I can do instead is I can say, I really don't want that right tab. I will highlight all of this and I can just click, drag this down and let go, and it gets rid of everything. I can come over here, select the dot, and I say I want it at the 5-inch mark. Since everything is selected, all of these paragraphs are going to get this, and Voila. Now I have this. And in this situation, I do have to go into my paragraph and go to tabs, and it has my 5-inch, and it says, what's my leader? And I can say, I want it to be a bunch of dots. When I click OK, now I have everything right there. So now notice I still have my little arrow. Remember, this is a non-printing symbol along with this paragraph mark. So if I want to turn this off, I just go up to my home tab, go to my paragraph, and this is what my menu is going to look like now. It makes it very, very nice, because now if I say, oh, you know what, a double bacon cheeseburger is 15 bucks, it's still going to line up because it is a decimal place. So it's a very handy feature, and it's wonderful for when you're going to be working with menus, or you're going to be working with something where you have to have things lined up. Tabs are your friend. Do not be afraid of them, but just use them up here in your ruler. It makes things a lot easier for you to work with. Enjoy.